Alright, says I'm live. If you guys can hear me, please let me know and we will get on with this. I'll pop the chat out. Hopefully the connection's good. Let me know if it's not. Sometimes at the beginning it can be a little funky, but I think we're good to go here. Oh, I lost the chat again. Alright. See, there's quite a few people in here already. I think there's about 100 people waiting when I was about to press the go live button, so looking forward to the stream today. Loud and clear. Awesome. What's up, guys? What is up, everybody? Everyone's saying. So it must be like, what, like a 10, 15 second delay, whatever it is. But yeah, what's up, guys? Nice to have you in here. Sincere says let the Mortal Kombat begin. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy race today. Hopefully it's not a snoozer. I don't really get too into the Xfinity series, but from what I was hearing in Discord chat, because I was working on the Cup stuff and some baseball stuff, I was hearing it was a snooze fest, plus it got rain shortened, so it definitely was not the most exciting race to watch at all. Baldy says hit the like button on the way in. Yeah, do appreciate that. Hopefully we can get to like 100, 200 likes today. That'd be pretty darn cool. What's up, guys? Let everybody roll in. What's up, Jay? Morning. What's up, Yes? What's up, Wyatt? What's up, Rob? Let's see. What's up, Tony? Let some people roll in. I brought out the Daytona Cup today. Figured it'd be I know it's not Daytona, but Talladega Daytona. Figured it was probably a good time to bring this out. And I just spilled on my shorts. Alright, just let some people roll in, and we will get going. Alright, let's start right about here. So Pat says, what's up, Chris and everyone? Let's have some crashes today. Yeah, I'm rooting for some crashes. Hopefully no one gets hurt, but I'm looking forward to whatever Talladega happens to bring us. Now, it might be boring for a little bit, so don't get too discouraged, but at some point there's going to be a big wreck. It might be in the last lap, it might be at the end of stage 3, it might be early. We saw Daytona this season, Daytona 500, where there was a huge one. I think it was, lap 14, lap 15, and pretty much half the field was gone, and then they kind of just rode around, and I think I fell asleep stage 2 because it was just so boring for quite some time. And then the very last lap, we had a huge wreck then, but yeah, hopefully we have an exciting race today. Looking forward to it. Let's see. Yes says, if you would have picked everyone at the back last Talladega race, that would have been our winning lineup, I think. Was that the fall race? I was looking at the previous optimal lineup. So typically every single time we're at a Talladega or Daytona, even if there's not like a bunch of wrecks, guys can still pick up a lot of place differential spots. So even if it's not a complete wreck fest, place differential is going to be king here. We're not going to see a lineup with like Truex, Logano, Hamlin take it down today, because the fast laps are just completely distributed across the field for the most part, and there's usually so many lap changes every single time. So even if there's not a bunch of wrecks, it's still going to be a place differential kind of optimal lineup today. But the one thing is, if there's not a ton of wrecks, if there's no like huge big one until the very last lap, guys like Timmy Hill, Balicki, Yaley, Gase, McLeod, they're probably not going to be the best plays in the world. If you are playing those guys, you're going to need the big one at least several laps before your last lap, unless they're on the lead lap. Rob says, is Lenny Hamlin driving today? Lenny's not. Denny is, though. Denny's driving. Edwin says, how do you feel about Kurt Busch DK GPP single entry? For a single entry, it's really risky, and I just have a hard time even saying you can play anyone inside the top 20 for a single entry. But if you are taking a stab at one of those guys, I would assume Omaro, Ricky Stenhouse are going to be pretty popular plays even in single entries. So if you're just looking for the direct ownership pivot, Kurt Busch is a fine play there, and everyone has equal chance of wrecking at this kind of track. So I don't hate going with the lower ownership with Kurt Busch right there. I actually do think he's a pretty solid tournament play today. Jason says, hey, what's up, Chris? Who wins your pick? My head tells me Denny Hamlin, but my heart wants to appreciate. That's my girlfriend, Julianne. I'm glad she is here. Wish her the best of luck today. She'll be in our contest, and she plays in some other stuff as well, and some 3Max stuff. So, yeah, hopefully we can get you to get a good lineup, because I don't give her lineup. She makes her own, and she usually does a pretty good job. Brian says, hey, Chris, what's up, Brian? Glad you're here. The Rolf says, I made only one lineup because I didn't want to spend a fortune. Very nervous of what would be an understatement. Hope my guys at least make it through most of the race. That's my goal. Yeah. Hey, even if you have a couple guys wreck, as long as they're starting in the back, you can still cash today. Like, if you have a guy wreck, don't think you're done. As long as he's in the back, and it's not like let's say it's like an Alex Bowman wrecking where he's going to get like negative 30 points if he's one of the first guys. If you have a back guy wreck early on, don't get too discouraged, because there's going to be guys up front that wreck, and those lineups are going to outscore the guys that started up front and wrecked. Obviously, it's probably not going to be optimal, but you can still cash. Mr. Miyagi says, what's good, Chris? What's up, Mr. Miyagi? Just looking forward to today's race. And yeah, just a good day. It's almost May. Summer's coming. It's going to be good. Rob says holds 2 gallons. It feels like it holds 2 gallons. It's like 10 pounds right here. It's like I'm doing a curl every single time I drink water. And also, by the way, if my camera ever gets blurry or the microphone stops working, please spam the chat and let me know. Just in case. Let's see. Gary says Reddick or Buescher. I will go with Buescher there. He's just pretty good at plate races. Steven says, what's up, Chris? Let's get that cash. Is the contest full? What's up, Steven? I agree. Let's get that cash. Is the contest full? I'm thinking last time I looked, it was at 95 people. So there's 5 spots left, and I think there's some pending invites. So it might be full. It might not be. I'm not sure. I'll send some invites after this live stream is. Oh, what? This says the stream broke? I'm blurry. All right, hold on. Let me just unplug my camera. Sorry about that. I have an Ethernet cable, and I don't know why it's blurry. Let me just unplug the camera. You guys can probably still hear me because the microphone's in. Alright. Anyway, I'll go back up and I'll look back down to make sure everything's working again. But anyway, Jason says, yo, all, what's up, Jason? Custer, Alfredo, or Yaley to finish out my cash lineup. Between those guys, I will go with Cole Custer just because I feel like the finishing position upside's higher than most of everybody else. People say it's still blurry. Oh, it's not good. I don't know why. The Wi-Fi seems fine. It says my connection's good. Might be lying to me, though. I guess I'll scroll down a little bit, then I'll go back up to the top just to make sure I can read the chat. Tony says that everything looks good on my end. All right, Tony, might be you then. Might be you then. Okay, anyway, I'm going to scroll back up. So I'll just have Juliana text me as if it's really out. So, all right. Anyway, going back up. Coast says LaJoy is starting 26. Chalk going to play. I don't think LaJoy is going to be chalk because he's starting a little bit further up than he usually is at plate tracks. But he's one of those guys that knows how to ride around the back and just put up a good finish because he's not one of those guys that's going to come out here expecting to win the race. He just wants a good finish. That's something Corey LaJoy typically does. So I think he's a good tournament play because where he's starting, it's just not as appealing as other guys, and price doesn't really matter. So I'd rather get the Gralla, Haley, Ryan Preece, Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer, probably over Corey LaJoy. So I think his ownership's actually going to be decently low today. Okay, we got some other people saying not blurry. Okay, good. Tony, you're scaring me. we need to check yours. All right. I remember the one stream I had. I think I had to make like 2 new streams because it kept breaking on me. Then the internet went out. I had to reset the router. It was a bad day. It was a bad day. Probably had a bad fantasy day too. It was just a bad day overall. Wyatt says, Chris, what kind of equipment is Cosgrella and Harrison Burton in? So Burton's in the lawnmower last year in the 96 car, but you got to keep in mind, guys, equipment doesn't really matter too much. Yes, Timmy Hill's in a bad car, but equipment at a track like this doesn't really matter. Now, some of these guys are going to lose the draft like back markers, but Gralla and Harrison Burton are some of those guys that can hang on to the lead lap today. Even if they theoretically didn't, as long as they avoid the wrecks and the wrecks don't happen the very last lap, they'll pass those guys within a couple of laps anyway. Jay says, who's going to be your most exposed driver today? Well, I'm thinking it's going to be one of those just massive place differential guys like Harrison Burton, Ryan Newman, or Ryan Preece. Some of those guys. I like the Ryans a lot today. Ryan Preece, Ryan Newman, Ryan Blaney. Big fan of the Ryans. If the Ryans do good today, it's going to be a good day for me. Rhiannon says shake and bake. Yep, shake and bake Ricky Bobby. I forgot to watch the movie. I was going to watch the movie before the race to get me pumped up Talladega Nights, but I forgot last night. I was playing too much Warzone with Miss Juliana over here. Baldy says Derek Lancaster from Arca is on a ventilator from yesterday's wreck. I didn't see the wreck, but I heard about it on Twitter, and it sounded pretty serious, but that's pretty terrible. Hopefully he's okay. Kemper says, who is your favorite to go to top dominator and 2 cheap plays? Well, I don't like any dominators today. If you just mean expensive drivers, because I'm not like grouping up dominators today. That's just not what you do to play track. If you're talking like my 2 favorite expensive guys, the guys I'm kind of leaning on the most right now are Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney. Keselowski's pretty close as well. Like in the 10K and up range, those are the guys I like the most. They're just pretty good at Daytona, and I feel like they got a chance to lead some laps up there and win the race. Danny says, who is to the back? I'm not sure. If you guys have any tech news, you can let me know in the chat. I'm not on Twitter right now, so I can't see Bob's tweets. But I'll tell you right now, if anyone goes to the back, I do not care at a track like this. You can gain 20 spots in a matter of a lap, and you can also lose 20 spots in a matter of a lap. So don't really care at all who goes to the rear. Maybe if Hamlin goes to the rear, I'd just feel comfortable pressing 0 on him because I don't think he'd lead the laps early on. But even then, I probably wouldn't change any ownership today if anyone goes to the rear. So we'll just make that simple. Sorry, I keep checking the bottom of the chat to make sure we're not blurry. I'm kind of nervous now because it went blurry at one point. Oh, let's see. Mark says, pulling hard for the 43 and 21 today. Eric Jones, yeah, I'm a big fan of Eric Jones today in tournaments. I'm thinking that 43 car downgrade is going to keep people off of him. But again, guys, equipment does not really matter. And Eric Jones is a pretty good plate racer. And we saw Bubba Wallace have some good runs in the 43 car. And I think Eric Jones is a better driver than Bubba Wallace. So, yeah, you can sign me up for some Eric Jones today for sure. Plus, you guys know I'll play Ryan Blaney, Eric Jones any chance I get. Jamar says, Gase gets up there regardless of accident. He is the safest at the bottom. Dive deeper on the numbers. I didn't say anything bad about Joey Gase, but I mean, he's a fine play. It's just if there's not like a bunch of wrecks. I mean, Joey Gase isn't going to be the best play out there, but if there's a bunch of wrecks, yeah, all those guys back there are going to be decent plays. Got nothing against Joey Gase. I got a decent chunk of him down low today. Rob says, what's good, CP? Hit that like button for your boy. Appreciate it, Rob. Thank you very much. How crazy am I for going 100% on 4 to 6 drivers? I have 2 from 12 to 24 and 2 from... You're going to go 100% on drivers? Well, I wouldn't recommend going 100% on drivers, especially on a track like this. I usually don't even get up to 60% on drivers at tracks like... that really predictable tracks like Atlanta. So I wouldn't recommend going 100%... Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Am I reading that wrong? For going 100% on 4 to 6 drivers... If I'm reading it right, yeah, I would not recommend going 100% on drivers, but I guess it depends on how many lineups you're building. I mean, maybe you could go 100% on a guy like Burton, all of those guys in the back, because they're very, very safe today. But FE says, happy day today, CP16. Appreciate it, FE. Appreciate it. Oh, no, you got the Blaney shirt on, so do we need to fade him? Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe lowering my ownership on Blaney now, because last time I wore this shirt, he got absolutely jinxed. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Casey says, what's up, brother? What's up, Casey? Love Daytona and Daytona DFS weekends. Me too. It's just it feels like a holiday. I love waking up to Daytona or Daytona in the morning. It's always a good time. All right, now I'm in the point of the chat where I guess the stream died, but I guess we're good. Gilbert says, Dayga, let's go. Let's go, Gilbert. Looking forward to it. Daniel says, Omaro is the closest driver I have to the front at 14th. You okay with that choice, considering it's more or less place differential, hoping for wrecks? Yeah, that's fine with me. I mean, I have exposure to drivers starting closer to the front, but those lineups are probably going to be dead anyway. I'm just in case lineups for the most part. Although I do like Blaney a lot, and then Chase Elliott got a decent chunk of as well, just because I think they have race-winning upside. And you get a little bit of PD with them, but Omaro is one of my favorite guys starting closer to the front today. He's just so good at Daytona, and he had, before the last wreck he had in the fall race here, he had, 5 straight top 9 finishes, I want to say. 5 straight. I mean, he's just been phenomenal here. E-Rush says, hey, Chris, how do I get in your contest? What's up, Rush? And how do you want to get in? Or how do you get in? If you just comment your DK username on my preview video that I posted on Friday, I want to say, I will send you an invite as long as there's room. But I think there's just maybe 2 spots left at this point. Bonnie says, happy Dayga Day, everyone. What did I say? Yes, happy Dayga Day, Bonnie. Looking forward to it. Rob says that was out of 17 lineups, by the way. Oh, for the 100% thing? If you have 100% on 4 drivers and 17 lineups, that might be pushing a little bit. Sincere says, grab a hat or both today and pick your lineup. Yeah, for the most part. You could probably do a pretty good lineup just putting random numbers in the hat and just pulling them out. Probably could cash some. Dustin says, Almirola, Harvick, Blaney, Priest, LaJoy, and Stenhouse in a GPP. I mean, you're really front heavy. I feel like there's going to be more guys starting in the back to make the optimal today, so maybe you should take out 2 of those. Okay, so we have Stenhouse, Blaney, Almirola, and Harvick. That's going to be 4 guys starting inside the top 20, which might be pushing it a bit because typically we're going to see at least 3 guys starting 20 and back, typically. Now, there's some outlier races, but if we're just looking at the law of averages here, I feel like you might want to just switch out a few of those guys to get more place differential in there. But I do like the overall drivers you have in your lineup. Rob says, what's the most percentage you will go on a guy starting in 15th? Well, is that just a question for Kurt Busch? In top 15, sorry. I didn't see the T there. The highest I would go is probably, I wouldn't go above 30. I mean, there's some guys that look really appealing, but if they wreck, I mean, those lineups are dead. Dude says, definitely don't count your chickens winnings before the checkered flag today. Yeah, don't, if you're winning $5,000 with 20 laps left, it's going to change. And if you're losing $5,000, if you're playing $5,000 today, there's a good chance that will change as well. Now, it's fun to watch the swings. You're going to be up, down, middle, left, right, everywhere. But the only thing that matters is when the race is over, because it's going to change. Even turn 4 in the last lap, your money's probably going to go crazy because guys are going to wreck on that lap. It just happens almost every single time. So don't get too upset. Don't get too happy. Just stay neutral and just check at the end of the race is my best advice for that. Dustin says cash are rolling with Burton, Gralla, Haley, LaJoy, Priest, Newman. I think that's a good cash lineup, Dustin. You got a lot of place differential there. Have no issue with that at all. I mean, I guess LaJoy could always be interchangeable with a guy like Alfredo or someone else in the back, but I hate trusting Alfredo, so I'd probably go with LaJoy. Chris says Alonso or Santana and MLB cash at first base. Well, price doesn't matter. Alonso. Which I usually am updating my MLB sheet right now, so I'm hoping nothing changed too crazy because I obviously can't do this on the live stream. So hopefully nothing crazy happened in baseball today, since 12:30. Although Verdugo did get scratched, so if you did play Verdugo today from Boston, he is not in the lineup. Dude says over under on flip cars today, Chris, 1.5. Flip cars, we'll take the under. We'll root for safety. Hopefully there's a lot of wrecks though. Travis says in a 20 max GP, how many lineups would you have someone above Omarola? Ooh, well, I mean, you probably would just want to kind of mix and match, maybe a few Elliots, a few Blaneys, maybe a Denny Hamlin in there, a Kevin Harvick, those kind of guys really. But I wouldn't go anything. I mean, I personally don't want to go above 30% on any of those guys up top. Pearson says, is Timmy Hill an okay play for a punt tournament play? Yeah, he's fine for a punt tournament play. He starts dead last, so he can't get you negative points, which pretty much every single driver besides Harrison Burton can't say that today. His downside is really low. Now, if there's not a bunch of wrecks, Timmy Hill's probably finishing in the 30s, so you got to keep that in mind. But there's a big one, and he avoids it. He'll be a good play today. Dude says Alonso versus Corbin. Well, Dude loves the Mets, so he'll always tell you the Mets player, but I agree. De Palma says, I'm just picking numbers from a hat. Probably going to work out better than whatever I do today. Johnny says, quick question, Burton or Jones GPP play? Thanks as always. Okay, so it's going to depend on your roster construction and how the rest of your lineup looks. So if your rest of your lineup is a bunch of place differential guys, you got guys like Gralla, Haley, Yaley, who's some other guys back there, top of my head, Cole Custer, Chase Briscoe, those kind of guys. If you have a bunch of them, I would go with the kind of more GPP play in Eric Jones just because he's starting further up and he'll have less ownership. If you have already a few guys starting closer to the front, I would probably recommend going with Burton just to kind of balance out your lineup. So it just depends on who else you have in your lineup, Johnny. These chats are confusing me because I'm so far back and I'm seeing people are saying I'm blurry, some people are saying I'm not, so I don't know what to do. Yes says it's not blurry for me, but I find myself picking Priest a lot, and am I an idiot? No, I think Priest is one of the best plays on the slate today. As awful as that sounded coming out of my mouth, but I like Priest a lot. He's good at Talladega. I don't think he's finished outside the top 20 recently, and he's been pretty good at the play track, starting 29th. I mean, he's cheap. Price doesn't really matter, but he's cheap. So if you need a cheap play, he's fine. But yeah, I like Priest a lot. I'd play him in cash games. Rick says, good strategy, Dip. Yeah, it's always a good strategy at a track like this. Just pick some random names, hope for the best, and hopefully you didn't have too many guys starting closer to the front. Bourne says, how many drivers starting 1 through 10 should we have per lineup? I would say 0 to 2, probably 0 to 1, but you could stretch it to 2 if you play like an Elliot Blaney or an Elliot Keselowski, but definitely not. You would definitely not want to go a Hamlin Logano today. I even have a rule just to have 0 lineups like that because it won't be optimal. More than likely, I just can't see a scenario where both Hamlin and Logano would be optimal today, unless every single place differential play happened to suck, but I don't see that. I don't think that's going to happen. Adam says, how's the lineup of Hamlin and everyone in the back? That can work. If you think Hamlin comes out, leads 100 laps today, and wins the race, he will more than likely be optimal. I mean, I don't know the exact score off the top of my head of what that would be, but he would more than likely be optimal. And I do have Hamlin today. I typically just use 0% on the driver starting on the front row. But since it's Hamlin and he has an average finish of 2.8 at these track types since last season, and he's typically the lead dominator, if he comes out, dominates, and wins, I don't want to just be absolutely dusted today. So I do have some Hamlin exposure, unfortunately, but I am rooting for him to wreck. Not a hard wreck. I'm just rooting for him to wreck. That's it. Because I'm underweight on him. Aaron says Harvick for the win, better play than Larson. I have more Harvick than Larson today. I wouldn't say Harvick for the win, but I think he's got top 5 upside. I feel like Harvick's due for a good plate race finish. Tyler says, I haven't decided whether to play or not. Should I? Well, Tyler, I don't want to tell you what to do with your money, but if you have some disposable income today, why not just have some fun and watch the race? But if you don't, well, then just watch the race. Wyatt says, if you're not first, you're last. It's true. That is very true. Ryan says, yes, Ryans are going to have a good day. It's my B-Day too. Oh, happy birthday to another Ryan. It's just a Ryan party today. Everyone wish Ryan happy birthday. Appreciate you stopping in the stream on your birthday. Julian says, sorry to distract you with the Warzone. It's okay. We were having a lot of fun. We were doing good. We were doing very good last night. Rocking Cardinal says, favorite cash play? I would say probably Burton. I mean, 39th. He can't score negative points today. I would say Ryan Newman, but he has the potential to score negative points, so let's just put Burton there. Tyler says, who's our favorite lawnmowers? So let's just say the lawnmower tier starts from Chastain and below. I would say Justin Haley and Gala here. Probably my 2 favorite in terms of ownership today. Notorious says, is Burton in good equipment? Worried he might lose the draft. He's in the 96 car, the lawnmower, last year. But, I mean, it's a fine car. It's not like it's as bad as a guy like Palicki, so I think he'll be fine today. Someone just said wowzer in my Discord chat, so I need to make sure there's no big news or something. Oh, sorry. We have some people at the race in Talladega, so he sent a picture. Looked pretty cool. Chris says you're blurry, but that's probably just the rum kicking in. Where are we at? Pearson says, so what do you think about Eric Almirola's ownership will be on DK? So looking at the last 2 races, he was around the 25% range, and I feel like it's probably going to be somewhere around there once again. Starting 14th, he's not an elite place differential play, but he's also one of the best drivers at Talladega, so I could see him being in the mid-20s. I'm not sure he'd push 30, but I could see him being mid-20s. Because I feel like the Stenhouse play right below him will keep some ownership off of him, so I don't think it's going to be... He probably won't touch 30 today. I wouldn't hate getting close to that, though, like personal ownership. Donald says, how do you feel about Kyle Larson? It's just he's starting so far up front where it's going to be a risky play. Plus, he's got an average finish of 28.5 here. But again, it's just getting caught up in wreck. So if you don't get caught up in a wreck, it's kind of just random luck there for Kyle Larson. I feel like the Hendrick cars can run well today, but they're going to probably be up front, and that's usually a danger zone for getting wrecked. So I'm going to be cautious with Kyle Larson. I'm probably going to be a bit underweight on the field here, but he does have race-winning upside. That's really the only stance I can have here. I can't tell you if he's going to wreck or not. It's just he's in a risky spot starting 12th, and I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that is running close to the front. It's going to be in that danger zone. PMJ says, what's up, Chris? Feeling good about Custer today? Yeah, I feel decently good about Custer today. He's starting 27th. I'm not sure he's going to have a ton of ownership either. I just feel like a lot of people aren't really talking Cole Custer up, and plus people hate the Stewart-Haas cars today, or the Stewart-Haas racing cars this year, so I could see him being a little bit lower owned than he should, and I like him. I have nothing against him. Jay says, Michael McDowell says he won the Daytona 500. When he won the Daytona 500, the team puts a lot of work on their cars and they take to super speedways. You think he has a chance today? Oh yeah, the front row motorsports cars are pretty good at the super speedways. It's like their one chance to win, and Michael McDowell took advantage of that this season. So yeah, I'm definitely in on both those guys. Although Alfredo, I hate playing Anthony Alfredo. I think he sucks, to be honest. But so far this year, I mean, maybe some more experience he'll get better. But so far this season, I mean, John Hunter Nemechek was way better than Alfredo was in this car so far. But John Hunter Nemechek had his success last season at the super speedways, so I guess we'll see. But I can definitely get behind McDowell. He's typically a good plate racer. I prefer him at Daytona over Talladega, but he's still a fine option. I do think his ownership will get a little bit inflated because of the win that he had at Daytona this year, so that's something to watch out for, because he's not like an elite place differential play starting in 23rd, but I do think he's a solid play overall. Trucker Mike says Quinn Alves seems to have a good point average here. Yeah, if the back guys, if there's a bunch of wrecks, they'll just move up because they're not going to really be involved in those big ones because that's usually the guys in the front or mid pack because they're all trying to get position. Those guys, they don't really care too much. They're just trying to avoid the wreck and then they'll get that. They want the top 20 finish. A top 20 finish for those guys feels like a win. So it's kind of the theory behind that. Tyler says, can you start with Omaro Spinhouse? Yeah, I got some of those guys in both the same lineups today. No problem at all. Brandon says, what's up, CP? It's Bull from Discord. What's up? Oh, Bull. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying for a second. Hey, what's up, Bull? Let's make that money today. Yeah, totally agree, Brandon. Totally agree. I didn't even know that was your name. Threw me off a little bit. Dude says, I wouldn't go higher than 23% on anyone today as everyone has a good chance of being in a wreck. Yeah, I can pretty much agree to that. Now, I kind of have mine to 40%, but if you really want to spread out your exposure, 30%. I mean, it might be a little bit low for me, but I'm around 40% for my max. But I'm also playing 150 lineups, so I have more opportunity to hedge. If you guys are playing like 20 lineups today or 10, I would, you can push that to like 50 or 60. You have to have a tighter core in those kind of contests. But if you're building 150, you can definitely lower that a little bit. Try to hedge yourself more. Because this is definitely one of the tracks you want to hedge yourself. Because if you think you know everything here, you don't. I mean, things you think are going to happen probably won't. And things you didn't think were going to happen will probably happen. But the way we can win here and set ourselves up for some success, which I don't want to make this sound completely random because it's not, because you can set yourself up for success here by having optimal roster construction strategy, which is kind of what we've been talking about the entire time. Sincere says, I pick my lineups by throwing darts. What's the difference between Daytona and Talladega? Daytona's a lot more narrower. Is that a word? Narrower? Yeah. Talladega, a lot more wide, but I mean, there's still similar plate tracks. Also, Talladega is a little bit bigger. I believe it's 2.66 miles in length. Daytona is about 2.5. Luke says something interesting I noticed from yesterday was that Cindric was over 25% owned in GPPs, expecting Hamlin to be around that as well, which is way too high. Totally agree, Luke, and I actually have him projected a little bit higher than that today in my ownership projections. I think he can get close to 30, which, look, I realize it's Denny Hamlin at a plate track, but the pole setter, that's super high ownership, and I am more than happy to be way underweight on that because we can get some massive leverage there. And I believe it was last season, Denny Hamlin started in the pole at Talladega in the fall race. He started in the pole, won the race, and I think, did he? I'll have to double check on that. But either way, he started first, and then he had 54 fantasy points. I forget exactly where he finished in that one. Well, I guess I could probably put up on my sheet. Yeah, he won that race, and he still had 54 fantasy points. It was not optimal. So, I mean, 30. If he pushes 30% today, I think that's way too high. I mean, I have some Hamlin exposure, but geez, that's really high on a pole sitter. Up was toyed. 96 man says, let's. I'm not going to say that word, but let's go. Yeah, totally agree, man. I'm surprised you're up at 1 p.m. He's usually not waking up till 4. JJ says, I feel like I'm putting lineups together recklessly. Yeah, that's how you should make your lineups at a super speedway. If you don't like your lineups today, like when you build them, you're probably doing a good job. I was looking at my optimizer, and I had a lineup that used $33,000 in salary, and I think it was like Gase, Yaley, Haley, a bunch of those guys down there. I was like, my gosh, that looks terrible. Might end up being my best lineup. Who knows? Matt says, Alfredo is a wild, shiftless hobo. Well, that might be a bit aggressive, but he definitely hasn't been great this year. Terry says, what's up, Chris? What's up, Terry? Nice to have you here. Matt says, is $2,700 too much salary to have left for a tournament? Nope. I know you said that before I even said that, but I just said $33,000 for one of my lineups. No, most of my lineups aren't, they're in that like $40,000 to $50,000 range, but yeah, you can definitely leave $2,700. I mean, the majority of my lineups probably have like more than that on the table. Rockin' Cardinal says, how much salary are you okay with leaving on the table? Again, probably answered that when I was talking, but I have some with, I don't think there's probably the best lineups out there, but just in case it's an absolute wreck fest and all the guys in the back end up gaining like 15, 20 spots, I have some with around 15 to 18,000 on the table. Not the majority of my lineups, but just in case. Gizball says, is Burton a must play on single entry, or do you take the leverage and look elsewhere? So personally, if I'm building a single entry GPP today, I would play Burton. But if you're someone that wants to get super contrarian, I tend to go a little bit more chalkier in single entries. So I would go with Burton. But if you're looking for the leverage, yeah, you can look elsewhere. It's just I'd probably recommend playing Burton because he's super safe. Let's see. Chris says Busher start too high for cash. Yeah, Busher's a little bit too high for me in cash games today. Wouldn't go there. I think he's fine in tournaments, but not in cash games. MTV says, Chris, big ups on Verdugo info. Had him in 6 lines. Oh, I'm glad to give some good MLB advice on the NASCAR stream today. Yeah, Verdugo is out. I don't Did lock happen at 105 or 110 today? Either way, yeah, get him out of your lineups. Steve says Hamlin started first and finished first the last time they were at Talladega and still didn't make the perfect lineup. Yep. It's funny. I feel like the things I'm saying before I even read the chat, you guys are already on. So I don't even know if I need to be here. You guys already got it down. Appreciate the help in chat. But yeah. I mean, the guy, I believe in the Xfinity race, I think last year, the guy started in the pole, won the race, and still wasn't optimal again. So Hamlin's going to have to lead like 100 laps today. Like 60 to 100 laps to be optimal, which is possible because he's like super good at these tracks. But I mean, is he going to keep not wrecking? I mean, he's got to wreck at some point, right? It's just impossible not to keep not wrecking. Maybe Joey Logano can give him a little push and happens to lose his grip. JJ says Hamlin first with 100 laps led with 10 fast laps, around 74.5 fantasy points, and that would more than likely be good enough for the optimal, 74.5 points. So if you think he leads 100 laps today, I mean, it'd be hard to fade him, but again, guys, there's a lot of risk for the pole sitter at a track like this. I typically go 0%, but since it's Denny Hamlin, I did up it to a little bit today. DePalma says when you're winning over 200,000 until the big one in the last lap, it's not fun. Yeah. Don't get too attached to the money sign that you see on DraftKings today until the race is over. And even then, sometimes they shift the scoring. So maybe wait an hour and see. Just wait an hour. MTV says DK won't verify my location. Oh, I hate when that happens. That happens to me sometimes. It never hurt me for lock, but it's been close sometimes for sure. Kemper says, what's your thoughts on Bubba Wallace? I like Bubba. He's pretty good at the plate tracks. He's in better equipment. Again, equipment doesn't really matter too much, but I still like Bubba today. I think he's a pretty good tournament play, starting 24th. I mean, he's a top 10, top 5 contender. Oh, where are we at? Sorry, the chat went down. Someone said they need to take a drink every time I say the chat went down. I think you guys would be dead. Steve says, I think Harvick should retire, bro. Well, he was doing good last race. He just, what happened, the tire, he had something on the tire, and then he smashed the wall. But he was actually having his best run of the season. I didn't really have any about Kevin Harvick, so I was glad he wrecked, but he was looking pretty good. It was making me a little bit nervous. Ryan says, thank you. Man, am I that far behind the chat? I feel like I said that 20 minutes ago, but you're welcome, Ryan. Jay says, last week Kelly was out on the 3-4 lap. Would that be the case? I'd hope not. I mean, some stupid things can happen like that. I feel like the most likely guy for that to happen to would be Timmy Ho today. I think Haley would be fine. Matthew says, how about a Rick Ware lineup? You can do it. I have no problems with it. This is the track to do it. Jim says, hi, Chris. Pennell scares the heck out of me. Yeah, he's one of those guys that's probably going to be wreckers or checkers, but overall, Stenhouse is usually pretty good at these track types, and if the trends keep up this season, Stenhouse just is not wrecking, and he keeps finishing in the top 20, so if he can just keep these trends alive, I'm liking Stenhouse's chances. Oh, good to hear, Wyatt. Glad I'm not blurry. Obi says, how you doing, Chris? I'm doing fantastic, Obi. I hope that's the same case for you. Luke says, Alfredo no practice, way less experience. Nemechek had more experience before he went to Cup. Got to give him some time. I agree. But my DFS bankroll doesn't really want to give him too much time. Mike says, I'm late to the chat. You helped me win 15K last weekend, so I appreciate you. And how many guys you like from the top 10? That's awesome, Mike. Glad to hear that. Did you win? Did you get like first place in the big tournament last week? Because I think we had like 4 guys do that. 4 guys were like tied for first in the big tournament. We had some guys win the lug nut and some other contests over on FanDuel as well. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, congrats to you. How many guys from the top 10? I'm probably maxing it at 2. If you want to get crazy and you think this stays green and you think Blaney, Elliot, Keselowski finish top 3, you could go that route. But it's a very risky strategy. I feel like 2 is a good max. But if you want to get nuts, you can stretch it to 3. But for the most part, I usually have around 0 to 1. I think I just gave you 5 answers there, but it just depends on how you're feeling. Aggressive 3, semi-aggressive 2, just kind of normal 1. Then if you just want to go straight PD, you can go 0. Pedro says Almirola Harvick stacked. I mean, they're not really guys I'm looking to stack together, but you can. I mean, I realize they're both in the same team, so they might end up working together at the beginning. But as I always say, there is no such thing as teammates on the last lap, and I think Joey Logano and Keselowski kind of showed that at the Daytona 500 this season. Like, yeah, they can work together all race, but at the end, they don't care. They'll wreck each other. NM says, do you guys think William Byron will place top 12? If William Byron does not wreck today, I'd say there's a good chance he finishes in the top 12. But if he finishes in the top 12, that's not good for DFS purposes. You're going to need him to win and get some lap slide. If Byron doesn't win today, he will not be optimal. Is there room in my contest? Well, before I went on the stream, there was 5 spots, and at this point, I feel like there's not any spots, but if there is, I will send some invites after the stream. Don says Blaney, Truex, Byron, Logano, Newman, LaJoy. So let's see. Oh, well, I don't think I'd go that way. There's a lot of guys starting starting really high for me. So you got 1, 2, 3, you got 4 guys starting inside the top 7. I hate to tell you this, but that's not going to work today, more than likely. It might look good at the beginning, but that's just not how optimal lineups work at this kind of track. I mean, 2 of those guys would be okay, but 4 is really pushing it. Matthew says Rick Ware lineup with this sign. I can get behind some Rick Ware. Bryce says 4,100 left on the table and single entry, too much or too little. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you probably went really heavy on the back guys, but that's a fine strategy today. I mean, usually there's like a set in stone, like how much are you going to have left? I mean, exact strategies, but there's like 20 different strategies you can go with today, 20 different ways to leave money on the table. You can use all your money. I mean, it's just one of those wide open weeks. JJ says Pockgrass thinks Logano wins today. He certainly could. Certainly could. Even if he wins, though, I'm not really... You'd have to lead a large chunk of the race to be optimal today. Eric says, hey, Chris, happy race day. Wondering what to project for the guys in the back because I'm too cheap for Patreon. Well, the projections are there for you, but I mean, for the most part, there'll be good plays if the guys wreck. It's as simple as that. If there's a huge wreck and it's not in the very last lap, these guys will be pretty strong plays. Simple as that. And typically there is a wreck. Albert says, my huge field 20 entry max GPP strategy, I'm assuming that's the Chrome Horn. Play 3 guys from the front and 3 from the back. Seems like that could pay off huge if things go my way. It's risky, but it certainly could go your way if those guys finish near the front. Now, do you mean front like the top 5, or are we talking like top 15 or top 20? Because that's different. Darren says, hey, I just got in. Is anybody starting in the rear? As of right now, I don't know because I'm not on Twitter. But if anyone goes to the rear, I don't care. I mean, it matters 0 to me today. If Larson goes to the rear, I would not change my exposure. If Blaney went to the rear, I would not change my exposure. Nothing matters to me if they go to the rear. Josh says, I stink at DFS. Well, that's not good. That's not good at all. Hope that changes. Sincere says, did they push the time up for this race? Did they? I hope not. Well, I got my lineups locked in, but I do have some single entries. I need to lock in my lineup for the contest. I don't think they would have moved it up, though. Chuck says, sorry if you already covered this. What do you think of Newman? No problem at all, Chuck. I like Newman a lot. One of my favorite plays on the slate today. Very good at plate races. Usually good at making himself available at the end. That's all you can really ask for at a plate race. Plus, he's starting back in the near 30th place. So. Dakota says, I may have missed it, but what's your thoughts on Chase Elliott? He's a very similar play, in my opinion, to Ryan Blaney and Brett Keselowski, where there's a little bit of PD upside there. He's also pretty good at Talladega. He's got a recent win here, and I would not be surprised if he gets up front at some point. So, yeah, he's just one of those guys that mix and matching up front. And I would say he's one of my more favorite expensive plays today. Rob says, one of my 30 lineups uses 49k more. Yeah, that's probably how they should look today, Rob. I think you're doing a good job there. FE says, 230 plus watching, only 89 likes. Hit the like button. Really helps me out. Matthew says, your opinion on a Rick Ware lineup? It can certainly work. I mean, it's just, if there's a bunch of wrecks today, the Rick Ware guys will be good plays. And if you are a believer in the big one happening early on, and there's a bunch of carnage throughout the race, these guys will be very solid plays. We've seen it in the past. Sorry, my chat went down. Rick or Coco B, where? Coco. Maybe I don't know a nickname or something, but if you're just talking about the Rick Ware cars in general, I do like them. Just today as this absolute pump plays. Jim says, Chris, if you had to pick one, would you play Stenhouse or Omarola? I would slightly lean towards Stenhouse just because he's starting a few spots further back, and I feel like the upside's pretty much the same in my opinion. Jay Smoke says, yo, what's good, bro? I'm playing Elliot, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Newman, and Harvick. Let's get it today, bro. Wish you the best of luck, Smokes. Wish you the best of luck. Asked and answered. All right, awesome, Bryce. Michael says, how about Austin Dillon? I have a little bit of Austin Dillon sprinkled in. He's not super bad at plate tracks, although his average finish at Talladega is at 20.5, but I can still get behind some Austin Dillon today. It's all about avoiding the wrecks up front. That's all it is. Thoughts on Gralla? Just one of the best PD plays in the entire slate. Super safe floor, similar play to Harrison Burton today. Reparation de You said it was Spanish last time, so I'm not gonna try it. I did take like a couple years of Spanish in school, but I didn't really pay attention too much. But anyway, so no Hamlin. I have a little bit of Hamlin today, but I want to be underweight on him. I mean, I just don't think he can keep finishing first or second every race. It's crazy. Oh, I just read the next chat. It says, "Don't need to say my name, by the way. It's in Spanish." I wish I read that first. Jay says, Growler or Jones. Overall, I like Growler a little more. Just call you random guy. Well, that's a little bit easier. I like that. Call you random guy. Cola says, how much are you leaving on the table for this race? I have some lineups that use the entire 50,000. Then I have some that leave like 18,000 on the table. So it's really everywhere for the most part. Pearson says, Almirola, Blaney, Logano, Keselowski, Hill, and Gralla. That's a lot of guys starting up front. That's 4. So you're pushing a little bit. I like the PD guys in the end. I just feel like I'd want to switch out at least one of those guys for a more of a PD guy. I know it feels gross doing it, but it's just the way it kind of works here. David says, who will be the lawnmower driver today? Oh, probably Timmy Hill. I mean, there's not really any lawnmowers at the Talladega or Daytona. I mean, it just doesn't really have the same kind of thing like in Atlanta. But I guess we'll see. We'll see the lawnmower. It'll be more just like the upside-down lawnmowers today. That donkey says, rank Almirola, Blaney, Keselowski. I would have it in the order you have it. Almirola, Blaney, Keselowski. Skylar says, thoughts on Gralla. Just an elite place differential play that offers you very little downside. Very little downside. Alan says, pivot to Jones from Burton in GPP. Well, Jones is going to be lower owned than Burton, so if you want the ownership, Jones is the guy there. Jay says, would you stack Penske cars today? I'm not, like, looking to stack in my lineups, like, teams, because as I always say, it's just, these guys aren't teammates at the end of the race. They will wreck each other. They do not care. I mean, for a while, I would imagine the Penske cars are going to storm up front and be 1, 2, 3 for a while, so it's going to look good for a while, and whoever's picking up the laps led is going to get a little bit of a floor in their fantasy points production, but I'm not really looking to stack too much. Obi says, careful, Chris. Oh, was that when I hit my laptop? Cola says, Busch or Logano. Which Busch? Kyle Busch or Kurt? Either way, I'd rather have either of the Bushes over Logano today. That donkey says, Burton, your favorite guy starting 30th and back. He is in terms of my ownership. David says, is it risky to have Omaro and Blaney in cash lineup? Yes. Don't play them in cash. In cash games, I would not play anyone above. I probably would not go above like 25th place today. I mean, you could maybe make an exception for a Stenhouse if you're feeling crazy, if you want race winning upside. But in cash games, just get guys like Newman, Burton, Gralla, Custer. Get those kind of guys in your lineup. You don't want to take on unnecessary risks in cash games. Let other people make mistakes. Yeah, definitely don't play Hamlin in cash games. If he's going to be high on cash, I think you're going to be sitting very pretty. Obi says, thoughts on Balicki? Did you sprinkle? Yeah, I sprinkled some Balicki. I have ownership on every driver today. Now, some guys I have one, and I will say Truex, I have one. I have one Truex lineup today. And I'm probably thinking that'll be my worst lineup because I hate Truex today. But I have a little bit of sprinkle on Balicki. Whoops. Oh, where'd we go? Pedro says Harvick or Larson, Kyle Busch or Bowman. So if it's between those two, I would take the Harvick or Larson right there. A little bit more PD with those guys. Tyler says, is Hamlin worth the risk in single entry? Not in my opinion. There's just so much that can go wrong for him. And if he happens to wreck out first, do you want that negative, like what, 38, negative 36 in your lineup? I would not take that risk in single entry. I realize he's the best driver at these tracks and he could lead a lot of laps today, but if something bad happens to him, or if he doesn't win the race, if he doesn't win today, he's probably not going to be optimal. So you need him to win, and I'm not willing to take that risk at such a random, explosive track. DJ Tug says, what is the best lap range for the wreck we all need? It can really happen where you don't want it on the last lap. Like if like the Balickis and all those guys are like a lap down and it happens on the last lap, well, they need a couple laps to be able to pass those guys because they're out of the race. So you don't want it in the last lap, which it can happen, but there's multiple big ones. I mean, it's not just one. So you're gonna want it a little bit earlier, but it typically happens. I'm just hoping we don't see single file the entire race until the very end, like we saw after the big one, Daytona, and then they just rode around until the last lap. It was insanely boring. I even fell asleep. Steve says Blaney's the only driver in the top 15 I'm using today. Need Penske to work together with Blaney out front. I would be a fan of that. I am heaviest on Blaney on the Penske cars by quite a bit. 3 drivers in the top 10. That's not typically an optimal strategy. 3 drivers in the top 10. But if you think it's gonna be a green race, it could work. But it's really not something I'd recommend too much. Chuck says, "What's your favorite play inside the top 10 other than Blaney?" How'd you know? Favorite inside the top 10, I would say Elliot, then Keselowski. But I don't have much ownership on any of those guys besides Blaney, to be honest. I would say second would be Elliot. Brian says, "Chastain or Matty D better finish?" I would say Matty D. I mean, if he can work with his Penske teammates, I mean, I could see him kind of staying up front as long as he avoids wrecks. But I feel like MDB is one of those guys that wrecks every single time we're at a play track. Typically runs well, but Daniel says, "LaJoy or Reddick, single on GPP, and thanks as always, Chris. You're very welcome." I would go with LaJoy there. As weird as that sounds, I would go with LaJoy over Reddick. Alex says, "Do you play any FanDuel? Would differential placement be the same at 0.5 fantasy points?" I do not play FanDuel, so I don't want to give any FanDuel advice. I do know their place differential is not scored the same, so it's less of an emphasis on it. So there's a little bit more emphasis on finishing position, if I remember correctly. And that's what people tell me. I don't play over there because I like to just focus on one site, but it's still, for the most part, you want the place differential, guys. Rated R Superstar. That rolls off the tongue well. Coco Beware, old WWF. Okay, I've never watched wrestling, so I would have no idea. Thanks for explaining. Notorious says Harvick or Ricky. I like Ricky, although he hasn't been wrecking this year. We might have to shed the nickname. Don says 2 spots left in the DK contest. So, well, that probably fills soon. So if you want in, comment your username. It'll be first come, first serve. Bourne says Buescher or Priest. I will go with Priest. Donkey says rank Stenhouse, Elliot, and both Busch brothers. I would go Stenhouse, Elliot, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch. Jim says this is going to be a low-scoring race, right? Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of dominator points today. I mean, some guys are going to pick up laps led, but it's going to be spread out for the most part, and the fast laps will be spread out, and it's not going to be, like, crazy. Donkey says favorite guys in the 20s, Newman and Priest. Prefer Gralla over all of them. Yeah, my favorite guys in the 20s are Newman and Priest, and I would not prefer Gralla over those guys. So I think they have a little bit more upside, to be honest. Dude says, who are you most over and under on relative to projected ownership? I would say I'm probably most under on Logano, because I would rather, if you're going to play a front guy, I'd rather play Hamlin, because I feel like he'll be the guy that leads on, and I'm not going to play both of them. So just naturally, I'll have to be, if I'm heavier on Hamlin, between the two, I'll have to be really low on Logano, so I barely have any Logano, and I feel like he'll have ownership just because he's Joey Logano at Talladega. And who I'm most overweight on, I would probably have to say it might just be one of those nice place differential guys like a Ryan Preece or something like that. But I'm not like super overboard on anybody today just because it's Talladega, but I did take some stances going underweight on some big names because I feel like they're likely to wreck today. Michael says, how many drivers starting in the 30s is too much for a lineup? You can play 6 guys in the 30s. I don't care. I mean, you can do that today. If you want to go in cash games and play 6 guys in the 30s, I don't have an issue with that if you think it's going to be a bunch of wrecks. Let's see. Super Dave says, anybody moving to the back today? I don't know because I'm on the stream as of right now. People can tell me in the chat if they do know, but if anyone goes to the back, I don't care. It doesn't change one thing for me no matter who it is. Briz says, what's up, big dog? What's up, Briz? Who do you like for a better finishing position today? For fantasy pick, Recchi, Stenhouse, or Priest? Always got the bomb content here. Thanks in advance. Yeah, appreciate it, man. I would say Stenhouse there. Stenhouse is usually a guy that's a contender to win at Talladega. Blake says live betting is the way to go. Be patient. Yeah. Ooh, live betting at a Talladega, though. My gosh. That can go up and down real quick. Jeremy says, what's up, Chris? I'm a little late, but let's go. NASCAR Sunday, baby. Yeah, looking forward to it, Jeremy. Thank you for stopping by. I think we're going to go like 10 more minutes in the stream, so if you have any persistent questions, let me know, and I might see them. Oh, Dustin says, Blaney, Elliot, Harvick, Priest, LaJoy, and Newman for a GPP. I think that's fine. You got 3 guys in there that's got top 5 potential, and you got the place differential at the end. I don't hate that. Josh says the 3 chalkiest drivers for GPP. I think the three highest owned guys today will probably be Ryan, Newman, Burton, and then I could see Ryan Preece creeping up there. Aaron says, who totals first, Newman or Recchi? The funny thing is, those guys don't really wreck too much at these track types. But Newman was not terrible wreck last year, but I don't really think these guys usually stay clean, although Recchi can be a bit of a wild card, but he's been pretty clean so far this season. Albert says that's okay, just $5 for the 20. Yeah, okay, whatever, $5. Just let it ride. Andre says, Newman, Priest, Burton, good cash score. Yep, that's perfect, Andre. That's a good call right there. Gary says, I was at the race that had no cautions. Man, those are always boring at these tracks when there's no cautions or anything like that. It gets real boring real quick. Especially if they just train. At least if it's green and they're too wide, that's somewhat interesting. But if they just go single file, that's such a terrible thing to watch. Some says Denny Hamlin top 5. Probably top 5. Alex says, how often do green races happen? Not really. I mean, there's usually always wrecks. It's just a matter of how many wrecks there is. Like if there's absolute chaos or if it's just a couple of minor spin-offs and things like that. But there's typically wrecks. Very likely. That Donkey says, thanks, Chris. Always great advice. Appreciate it, Donkey. Appreciate it. Fast Man says, full fading drivers 1 through 6 in GPP. Is that crazy for 20 entries? No, it's not crazy at all. I mean, it's very unlikely that any of those guys in the top 6 are optimal today. Yeah, for sure, Donkey. For sure. It's always good when we agree. Bryce says, done tinkering, hate my lineup, so hopefully it does well. Gonna go fishing and watch the race, maybe a couple adult beverages. Hope you enjoy the day, Bryce. It sounds like you're gonna have a good one. And if you hate your lineup today, you're probably doing a good job. Some says, is Hamlin worth the risk? Probably not. I think he's gonna be so overowned. I have a little bit of Hamlin today, just in case. Just in case he leads 100 laps and wins, but I just don't think it's gonna happen on the pole today. It's hard for the guy in the pole to be optimal because these guys that starting and way in the back, like Ryan Newman can easily outscore Denny Hamlin today, easily. Trucker Mike says, in tournament play, do you try to fill all spots in like 20 spot games, or do you spread out across the board on a lot of different games? Do you mean contests? If you mean contests, I would just try to like get the max amount of entries I can in a certain contest so you can maximize your upside. Because if you're playing like one lineup in the the $20 this week, one lineup in the 4, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage because you're gonna go against people that have 20 lineups, 150 lineups, and if you're only throwing like 1 or 2 in there and spreading it out, you're at a disadvantage. Thanks, Michael. So are you. Dave says, just finished my lineups. I feel sick looking at them, so maybe they will hit. That's the best way to do it. If you feel sick looking at your lineups today, you're probably making some good data lineups. Now, it might not look good at the beginning, but just wait till the end and we'll see how it goes. Wyatt says, let's get that money, Chris. See you at the top. Let's hope so. I'll probably have a lot of lineups at the bottom, but hopefully there's a few that hit. Gizball says, Omaro or Stenhouse. I like Stenhouse a little bit more. Jeff says, sorry, late. It's okay. No problem at all. Cash locks? I mean, the chalky drivers today are probably going to be Priest, Newman, and Harrison Burton. You can throw in Gralla in there as well. Just the main PD guys. Recchi for the win. It can happen. He was close last year. He was like this far away from Blaney. That far away. Rick says my lineup is 17th to 28th in Burton. I'm scared. No, that's good. That's good, Rick. That's a good Talladega lineup. Random guy says, Ryan Blaney good pick or no? Yeah, he's a good pick. He's risky. Very, very risky, but he's got race winning upside. He's very good at Daytona. If he stays clean and wins the race, I mean, decent chance he could be optimal today. David says, in cash, which drivers would you take for under 6K? Well, let's venture down low. I would play Haley. I'd play Gralla. I'd play LaJoy. I don't know if I'd play Alfredo in cash, but you can play him. Yeah, those are the kind of guys I play in cash. Okay, Pedro says, Chris, here's for a wild ride. Oh, boy. Bill Bowman, Buescher, Austin Dillon, Hamlin, Harvick. Oh, that's one lineup. I thought you were asking me to pick between those guys. Okay, let's see. So you have Bowman, Buescher, Austin Dillon, Hamlin, Harvick for a... If it's a boring race lineup like that would not be too bad. It would not be bad. So if you think it's going to be a boring race, that could work, Pedro. John says, hey, Chris, just joined. Oh, appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. If you want to get in the Discord chat, can you send me a message on there? Because I have a tutorial video on how to join the Discord chat. But if you go into your Patreon settings, you have to be on a browser, not the app. Go to your profile settings and then go to apps, and I think you can just connect your Discord account with Patreon, and it'll just automatically put you in there. So there's no link for it. It'll just automatically put you in. Hopefully that makes sense. You might be able to just Google how to join a Discord chat through Patreon too. Dude says thoughts on Reddick today. I like him a little bit. Starting 20th, it's just he's in that weird spot where he's not like a big PD guy, but he's not a PD guy. So just have a little bit of Reddick, but I don't have a strong stance on him. I feel like he's just right there in the middle where it's like, okay, he's okay, but he's not great either. Jim says, what score should you shoot for? It's going to be completely different, like any single track. It just depends on all the wrecks and all that. So if you guys want to look at the previous optimal lineups, we can look at the scores really quick because I don't know them off the top of my head. But you shouldn't shoot for like a certain score because it's going to be completely different every single time. So I think it's right here, previous. Yeah, there's the tab. So 371, 355, 380, 374, 370, not the same one, 333, and then we had 335. So as you can see, it's kind of all over the place. So you really shouldn't shoot for a certain score. It's going to be different just depending on how the race goes, really. It's not one of those tracks where, yeah, we're going to have around 400 points almost every single year, like at a Martinsville or something. Yeah, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, I don't mind those guys. I'd say they're two of my favorite guys that are super expensive today. JJ says, real question, Harvick or Haley? That's a good question because I'm going to say Haley. That's crazy. I mean, this is the only kind of track where I'm telling you to play Justin Haley for Kevin Harvick. Dude, although this year, though, Harvick's been bad. Doesn't matter here, though. That doesn't matter. I'm just thinking of something else. Dude says all about the vomit stacks today. For sure. For sure. All right, we have 2 minutes until we're an hour, so I'm going to cut it off in like 2 minutes. So if you have any silly or non-serious or serious questions or whatever you want to say, just fire them away and we'll get out of here. Alex has thoughts on those 20 to 25 position racers. I think they're all good tournament players for the most part. Michael McDowell, Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe. Who else is in there? Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick. Who's starting 21st? Oh, Chris Buescher. Yeah, all those guys are fine tournament plays. Jay says, how much hill do you have? I'm thinking like, I know some people are a lot higher on him than I am, but I don't really want to go above 10 to be honest. But he's a very safe play back there, so I don't like playing hill. Blake says DK has boosted odds for Hamlin to win plus 1,000 today. Might toss $10 on it. I mean, yeah, that's not bad. I mean, he's the best bet to win. It's just I'm not sure it's going to keep happening, but yeah, boosted odds and that's pretty good. Tommy says how much? Omarola, Stenhouse, Newman, Priest, Burton, Grotto, okay for SC. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Thoughts on changing your shirt? You guys want me to unjinx Blaney? I don't want to change my shirt though. It's Talladega day. It's gotta wear the Blaney shirt. Matty D will win. That'd be cool. That'd be cool to see him win. Bodie says BJ McLeod gets his first. I'm not sure BJ's gonna win today, but you know he's got top 20 upside here at Dega. Mike says love the content, my man. How do we sign up for the Discord? So in the pinned message that's blue on my screen at the very top, there's a link there, and there's options where you can just get NASCAR content, optimizer, or you can just sign up for the Discord chat if you don't even want the content. You can just sign up for the Discord, and it'll put you in there. But lots of fun people in there. My Discord's throwing me off this entire chat because it's like every single second they're talking in there. I forgot to mute it. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna get it out of here. Oh, Sean says optimizer spit out a Hamlin Logano lineup. Yeah, Sean, in the optimizer really quick, this is probably pretty important. I put a little group thing where I put Hamlin and Logano in the same group, and I made it to where you can only play one of those guys in each lineup, and I have very little ownership on both. So make sure, put that group in, and it should help you out. Because the projections like those guys just because they're super good at Talladega and plate races, but got to keep in mind there's a lot of variance of this kind of track, so I'm definitely really low on them. Alright, since Blake's really late, do we think Stenhouse gets top 10? If Stenhouse doesn't wreck today, I think there's a strong chance he's a top 10 guy. And with that being said, guys, I think I'm getting out of here. You're welcome for the people that said thank you. Appreciate everyone watching, and I hope the wrecks are in your favor because we're going to need a lot of luck today. So cross your fingers and toes, and I'll see you guys on Twitter. I'll try to put some halfway decent funny tweets out there today. I'll see you guys in the next week.